Hey there guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I appreciate you being here as we talk some movie news on the channel. So in this episode of Review Flicks, we're going to be talking about The Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings streaming show that landed on Amazon, and it looks like Season 3 is all but confirmed due to quotes that we have coming out of the studio. So guys, if you are new around here, consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the movie and streaming news we have going on this channel. And with that down, we're going to be jumping into this article here from comicflicknews.com. So, Prime Video confirmed Season 3 of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Exciting news for fans of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. While the series is set to return to Amazon Prime Video later this year, it's been confirmed that preliminary work has commenced on a third season. So when talking about The Rings of Power, it's kind of like, where do we begin? There were so many people that had so many issues with this series of Lord of the Rings. One of the major issues was the fact that Galadriel, the main character here in this picture, that a lot of people found her very unlikable. They didn't like watching her. They thought that, she was a bit of an asshole. And ultimately, if your lead character is very unlikable and not liked by the people who are watching your show, then, a lot of people are going to tune out and not going to want to watch it. But there were several other problems that people had, with the narrative, not sticking to Tolkien's original work, and so on and so on. We could talk all day about the issues. But let's continue to read on and see what's going on with a potential Season 3, even though we haven't got a Season 2 yet. But it looks like there are murmurings about a Season 3, so let's have a look and see what this article has to say. So when The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power premiered on Amazon Prime Video, it was touted as the platform's answer to Game of Thrones, boasting a record-breaking budget that reportedly made the most expensive TV series ever made. So guys, for fun, I've got a few little factoids here about how expensive this show was, and it will put it into perspective. I've laid out a few of these bullet points, just showing you how much money was spent on this show. So let's go over to WordPad quickly, and I'll show you what I mean by breaking down how much this show actually cost. So landing over here on this Word document that I put together for you guys, just puts into perspective how much money was spent on this Rings of Power show. So the muted 1 billion or 755 million cost, 250 million for the rights, 750 million to film 6 series, making it the most expensive TV show ever, illustrates the scale of Amazon's ambition. So these are the points here that I put together just to show you the perspective of the cost of, this show. It's just absolutely mind-boggling when you think about this. So it's 166 times as much as Steven Spielberg and Universal paid to Michael Crichton for the rights of the Jurassic Park IP. 166 times as much for the Jurassic Park IP. That's crazy. 125 times as much as the 2 million that Warner Brothers put down for the movie rights to J.K. Rowling's first 4 Harry Potter books. 125 times. It's more than 40 times as much as the biggest book adaptation deal I can think of. The $6 million that Dan Brown received for his 2003 novel, The Da Vinci Code. By my estimate, it's roughly equal to the aggregate prices paid for 200 most expensive movie screenplays ever sold. 200 most expensive movie screenplays ever sold. Wow. It's 2.5 times as much as the total expense that Netflix paid for the first 26 episodes of House of Cards. It's nearly as much money as New Line Cinema spent to produce all 3 movies in the Peter Jackson-directed Lord of the Rings trilogy. That is, in and of itself, just that alone there, it's nearly as much as New Line paid for all 3 movies in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy. Guys, you just read these points here, it's just insane how much money, Amazon have spent on this Rings of Power show. And, they say that the first season went well, but a lot of people are saying that it was a disaster based on how much they spent. But we're getting Season 2, and it looks like we're now getting Season 3. But let's hop back over to the article and keep reading and see what we can learn about the upcoming Season 3. So, the show debuted to massive viewership numbers, making Prime Video's biggest ever debut and hailed as a culturally defining moment by Amazon studio boss Jennifer Salke. However, as the season progressed, it became apparent that the series experienced a significant drop in viewership. Yeah, so this is where a lot of people are saying that the first season of The Rings of Power was basically a failure because, the people that started watching it, maybe the first episode was massive in terms of viewership numbers, but by the end of the actual season, there was such a massive drop-off, people stopped watching it for all kinds of reasons, whether they disliked the main character, whether they didn't like the narrative, all sorts of reasons. But let's have a look here. So we have some figures that tell us how many people actually fell off the series by, from episode 1 until the very last episode. So in the US, only 37% of viewers completed the series. That's quite bad. While overseas, the completion rate stood at just 45%, falling short of the desired 50%. Despite this, production for Season 2 has shifted from New Zealand to the UK, likely to reduce costs with an expected return to screens later this year. So yeah, that's really bad. They wanted at least 50% to go from episode 1 right through to the end of the series. And in the US, it was only 37, and then elsewhere in the world, it was only 45. And that's quite bad when you think about it, but the overall viewership numbers were still quite high. But the fact that, the majority of people couldn't even get to the end of the series, that's kind of speaks volumes, the fact that people fell off it. There's a myriad of reasons. We could jump into that and we could talk about it all day, about the issues with the show. But there are positives to the show. The production was great. I think some of the acting was great. The main character, Galadriel, I didn't like her all that much. But it didn't really distract me too much from the show because I found it fun to watch other things in the show. But I still love being part of that kind of, Middle-earth world. I'll literally watch anything to do with Lord of the Rings, even if it was literally just a poster on a wall for 2 hours and it had Lord of the Rings on it. I'd probably still watch it if that was a show because it's just Lord of the Rings. So, So, yeah. Today, The Hollywood Reporter confirms that showrunners Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne have signed a new 3-year deal with the streamer, paving the way for the development of Season 3, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. To be fair, this isn't exactly surprising when you think about it. What we've just talked about earlier in the video, about how much money they've injected into this series, paying for the rights and then paying to, make the show. Of course, they're going to keep making these shows because when you've spent this much money, it's not something where you can just do one season and then just abandon it. I think they're going to go for 6 seasons, I believe. But, if Season 2 or Season 3 comes out and it absolutely bombs, then are they going to keep going? Or, I wonder what's going to happen on, So, as well as confirming those plans for Rings of Power Season 2 premiere in 2024, the trade adds that while a 3rd season hasn't officially been ordered and a writer's room has not yet opened, the showrunners have started to break the initial story outline. So, they're in very early pre-production, they're working on the outline of the show, the writer's room hasn't opened, so they haven't began, writing the episodes, but they're just breaking the initial story of, kind of how they're going to move the story forward. But we'll have to see how that plays out. Obviously, we haven't got Season 2 yet, so we'll have to get through Season 2, see how the story unfolds, but hopefully they can take the lessons that they've learned from Season 1, build on it, because there were some great building blocks there. With everything wrong with Season 1, there were some great initial building blocks, and if they can get rid of the stuff that didn't work, build on the stuff that did work, then I think Season 2 and 3, potentially up to Season 6, we could have something really, really great on our hands to watch. So, Vernon Sanders, head of television at Amazon MGM Studios, shared the following statement. So, quote, "We began this remarkable journey with JD and Patrick more than 5.5 years ago and have never looked back. We continue to be amazed by the scope and scale of their vision and the enormous global success achieved by Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power in its record-breaking 1st season. We can't wait for Prime Video customers to experience the epic adventure and high-stakes drama that JD and Patrick are continuing to build throughout Season 2 and beyond. Naturally, the studio is thrilled to extend our overall deal with these brilliant creative minds as they continue to deliver on their passion for great storytelling." So yeah, they've signed on for Season 3, which is great. It means Amazon's obviously got a lot of faith in, the people behind the show, which is great to hear. Building that relationship, with showrunners is a good thing, having them on for multiple seasons. And hopefully these guys, like I said, they can build on what worked and get rid of what didn't work. So talking last year about the disappointing viewer figures, Selke said, "This desire to paint the show as anything less than a success is not reflective of any conversation I'm having internally." Yeah, so a lot of people and critics are saying, the show wasn't as successful as Amazon wanted it to be, but Amazon, internally are not saying that whatsoever. They believe that the show was, all the success that they needed to greenlight a Season 2 and then start working on a Season 3. So Amazon seemed to be happy with it. It seems that the upcoming 2nd season will have a more dramatic story turns, as she added. "That's a huge opportunity for us. The 1st season required a lot of setting up." Yeah, I mean, like the Harfoots in the 1st season, a lot of time was spent on the Harfoots that people found just a little bit boring. We kept cutting away to the Harfoots when something interesting was happening. And, the whole Sauron storyline as well was a bit too obvious. It was a bit on the nose. And, you know, like I said, we could sit here all day and go into things that didn't work. Galadriel not being very likable. But other than that, there are a lot of things that did work, and a lot of people did like the show and found it interesting. I'm looking forward to a season 2. I hope they improve the show. I really do. But if they just repeat all the issues they had in season 1, then I think that'll be it for me. I don't think I'm going to bother with season 3. But, you know, I say that, but I'll probably watch it anyway. So what are your thoughts on the resolution of the Sauron mystery in Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power? Are you excited to see the iconic villain take center stage in the upcoming season and beyond? Share your opinions and predictions in the comment section. Yeah, guys, so that's kind of where we are. So it looks like Amazon, you know, the people behind the show have actually come out and said, you know, they're working on the initial outlines for the story of season 3. So it looks like season 3 is all but confirmed, which is great for people who are fans of the show. I hope season 2 can improve on what season 1 did well and get rid of the bad things, like I've already said. But guys, jump into the comment section. Let me know what you think about this. Are you interested in Rings of Power Season 2? And did you manage to finish Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power Season 1? Did you get through to the end? What did you think of it? Jump into the comment section, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here as always, and I will see you soon.